time to roll. Time to roll to the hole. We rollin'! Yeah! This is what we do and why we do it. And nobody does it any better than we do. It's your night, your fight, so get it right, baby.
And there we are, Mr. Matthews. What's up, brother?
Nothing much, man. Actually, just we were just off the air. We were talking about it, but now I'm actually kind of pumped because I was thinking about the fight card this weekend. You know, because we were talking about some of the guys we have coming up, and yeah. So while we were getting on the air, I was sitting there just already thinking about that stuff.
Yeah. Yep. So yeah, definitely a good fight card. It's interesting though. I think that the one of the more intriguing things leading into this weekend's fights isn't the fights themselves for me. It's the fact that the majority of America isn't going to be able to watch them.
Yeah, that's kind of an interesting predicament. The whole deal between the network and the cable providers and satellite providers and the money issue there. That's, you know, that seems to always go to the last hour. Whether they're going to get something worked out, I don't know. But it's happened before where they've literally gone to the last couple of hours before, you know, it went on the air and everything ended up, you know, working out. I don't know whether it's going to work out this time because these guys are pretty far apart on what they want.
Yeah, I find that very interesting. I'm not even sure I'm going to get the fights here at home. Are you?
Yeah, I have AT&T Uverse, I believe, is carrying that station.
Yeah, Amber and I were talking about switching to them just this afternoon, actually. We're on Cox, so...
Yeah, you know what? I had my fill of cable, and I won't even go on this rant right now. But I've had my fill of cable, and I'm not going to. I just won't go any further than that. And Uverse has been pretty good, and yeah, no complaints here. I really got it because, you know, for fuel, I can never watch those fuel cards, and it turns out to be pretty good. So
yeah, it's supposed to be good. Also, their internet's supposed to be good too, if you can get the fiber optics. Anyways, they're not paying us to talk about them, so...
Yeah. So, wait, who do we have coming up? We got somebody coming up immediately in the next few minutes.
Yeah, we have Joe Lauzon who's fighting this weekend against Michael Johnson, right? So, real excited to have Joe. We haven't had Joe on the show since Jens Pulver hosted this thing. So it's been a very long time since we've had our good buddy Mr. Lauzon on, and I'm excited to talk to him. I was there last time he fought in Boston. I was there live when he completely smashed Gabe Rudiger. It was an awesome performance, and the crowd there in Boston is like so behind this guy. One of the most rowdiest bunch of crowds you can have. He's obviously the hometown guy right there, so it's going to be interesting to see if he can live up to his last performance in Boston.
Yeah, he always has good performances, though. He's slowly becoming like one of the go-to guys if you want to have an exciting fight. His style like lends itself to being exciting, which is really strange because he will stand and bang with guys, but all of his finishes, I don't want to say all, but, you know, 80 to 90% of his wins, literally, that's a real stat, have come by way of submission. And typically, the guys who are high-level submission fighters, people call them boring. Guys like Jake Shields have similar resumes with 18, 20, 25 wins coming by way of submission. But Joe Lauzon has these fights that he wins by submission that are extremely exciting because he's going for flying triangles, and flying heel hooks and things like that. And he definitely goes to war with guys. His fight with Jim Miller is evidence of that.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's learned pretty much that if he just goes out there and kind of lays it all on the line, that he's going to keep his job and that he's going to win some fights and he's going to win the fans over. I mean, it doesn't seem like it was that long ago that he was on The Ultimate Fighter coming off his Jens Pulver upset, and a lot of people really didn't know who he was. Here we are. Fox is featuring his video blogs nowadays, and he has a lot of people behind him. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, he's an exciting fighter. I mean, and he's getting rewarded for it too, because when you have those exciting fights, he's been a recipient of that fight of the night. I don't know how many times now, but I think he's like the one that's gotten it the most at this point. He definitely brings a different aspect to the table that a lot of guys don't get, who have similar styles, who have that submission style, and Joe brings it, man. And it's gonna be a good fight. We were talking about a little bit about the fight off the air, but we can bring it up now. I think, in my opinion, I'll make my prediction for this fight since we're talking about it. I think Joe Lauzon wins this fight. I think he wins by submission, and I just think stylistically it's just completely in his favor.
Michael Johnson's a really tough dude, but the one thing that he has going against him right now is he's on a 2-fight losing streak, and he's got to have some pressure going into this fight. He's going to have the crowd against him, and not taking anything away from him, I think he's really good. I mean, he beat Tony Ferguson, he beat Danny Castillo. Those are two legit dudes, So he has the potential, but he's got a lot going against him this weekend, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, he comes from a good camp. I mean, you could say what you want about the Black Zillions. He comes from a good camp. They will have him prepared. I just, again, we talk about camps and this guy getting ready for this guy. And I don't know how much stock you can put in it. When you're going into a fight camp, you're trying to get prepared for that night. You're not necessarily going in there to learn new skills for those 2-3 months. And, stylistically, I think it's a tough fight for Michael Johnson. I think that Joe Lauzon offers a lot of stylistic problems for him. And we're gonna find out. We're gonna find out that night. But again, regardless of the training camp, I don't think you can change the. I don't think you can change the kind of the base each fighter has. And Michael Johnson has shown to have some deficiencies in his submission defense, whereas Joe Lauzon has shown himself to have extremely high aptitude for submissions in mixed martial arts, and when you mix those two together, again, in my opinion, you have to favor Joe based on that. Again, anything can happen. A fight's a fight, especially with two high-level guys. But Joe definitely has he brings a different element to this fight that I think Michael Johnson could have a lot of problems with.
Let's see what he thinks about it. He's on the line right now, George. We have Mr. Joe Lauzon. What's up, Joe?
What's going on?
Not much. How's everything going out there, man?
It's going good. I'll be happy when Wayne's over, and I can eat like a fat kid again. But everything's pretty smooth over here for the most part.
Awesome. Before we get deep into this interview, I want to say from George and I and the entire BJPen.com family, congratulations on your recent announcement with the son on the way.
Thank you.
That's awesome, bro. So big stuff.
Yeah, pretty excited about it. I talked to BJ about it. He's like, before we knew it was gonna be a boy. He's like, hope you have a girl. No pressure that way. So of course he jinxed me. It's a boy.
Right on. Yeah, that's really cool, man. Does that take away from your preparation for this fight coming up? Have you been distracted with that, or not really?
No, not really. I mean, it's still pretty early. There's not really too much going on. For me, it's all about focus on the fight for now. I'll worry about all the other stuff later. But I'm not sweating it at all. I'm excited to be a dad. I'm a little bit scared, but it's definitely not bothering me right now.
Awesome. Now, I remember the last time you fought in Boston. I was there. BJ was on the same card for his second Frankie Edgar fight, so we were all there. And I remember that performance that you put on against Gabe Rudiger, man, and how not only how on fire you were, but how on fire that crowd was that night. We're almost 3 years removed from that now. But how excited are you to get back in there in front of your hometown? And I know you've talked about it in other interviews that you're really looking to try to trump that last performance, but how the heck are you going to do that, man?
I don't know how I'm going to do it. I'm hoping it just comes to me. But I'm super excited to fight at home. it's nice, it's really, really nice to go and travel and do all this other stuff, but I appreciate so much the fact that I get to sleep in my own bed. I'm in my own house right now. I'm not, in a hotel room, staring at the wall. So I'm pumped to go fight in front of a hometown crowd that I know is going to be screaming their head off on me.
So Joe, talking about the fight itself, Pedro and I were talking about it off the air, and obviously when we got on the air to do the show, we were kind of breaking down the fight a little bit, and what I was saying was, it looks like to me that, and I don't know when you can tell me what you thought of when you were offered the fight, but stylistically, to me, it looks like it's the perfect fight for you. You're a guy that's got aggressive, solid submission skills in mixed martial arts, probably some of the best actually for MMA, high finishing rates. And Michael Johnson has seemed to show a lot of deficiencies, specifically in areas like leg locks and triangles. And what did you think about the style matchup? And is that kind of what you thought? Were you looking at kind of the same things?
Yeah, I'm very happy with the matchup. I think that on the feet, I think it's pretty comparable. I think wrestling is pretty comparable. But I think that on the ground, I'm going to have a pretty big advantage. So the overall game plan is, get the fight to the ground, that's usually my game plan for most fights. I'm comfortable on my feet, but what I like is being on the ground and jiu-jitsu and ground and pound and looking for submissions. So, I like the matchup a lot, and I definitely agree with your assessment. I think that he had some issues with submissions and get caught in the past, but like any good fighter, I'm sure he's been working at, rounding those out and working on his weaknesses and things like that. So it's definitely not an easy fight by any stretch. Everyone at this level is really good and really talented and working really hard. So, I fully expect him to, come in well prepared and ready to go and ready for, whatever I throw at him. I got to hope I can, throw something and have it stick.
You kind of broke him down and you can kind of see the path of least resistance, obviously, for you would be if you both ended up on the ground, whether you were on the top or on the bottom, it looks like you'd have an advantage. But what do you think where do you think he wants this fight? Do you think that he doesn't care if he gets on the ground with you, or do you think he's going to completely try to avoid that and just try to get you to stand?
I think he'll hold the ground. He might shoot a takedown maybe at the end of a round or something like that to try and, win it. But, he doesn't shoot very often, so I'm not expecting that all that much. I think, he wants to keep it standing, keep moving and turning into a kickboxing match. That's what I think he's going to try to do. But, if he wants to shoot it and take me down, by all means, that's fine with me. Let him.
He also is sitting on a 2-fight skid going into this. Do you think that that'll affect him, or how do you think that affects somebody coming into it? Because especially in the UFC, 2-fight skid it's for most people it could mean you're on your way out if you lose the next fight. So.
Oh yeah, his back is definitely up against the wall, and you got to be careful when people are trapped like that, they're crazy like that. You have to be careful, because they'll do unexpected things, and they'll come out with a fire that they might not have had otherwise. So it's definitely something I'm looking for, and I have to be very careful of. I definitely, watching all the tape and things, and the fight that I remind myself of all the time is the Danny Castillo fight. He hurt Danny Castillo really bad in the first round. Danny Castillo hurt Michael Johnson really bad in the first round. Almost finished him in the first. He ended up surviving, and then he knocked out Castillo early in the second. So, he's a guy that, can take a lot of abuse and punishment and then still come back strong. So I got to keep that in mind. Even if the fight's going great, it's going my way, I have to stay sharp. I got to be ready.
All right. Now, Joe, this card is pretty much super stacked, right? I think that Dana and the UFC have made a big point to try to debut on FS1 with an amazing night of fights. You're opening the main card. Do you have any added pressure to try to perform? Because obviously, you have exciting guys up and down this card. Uriah Hall, Matt Brown, Faber, Overeem, and then the main event, Shogun and Sonnen. This is a card that on paper should deliver action from start to finish. So, is that something you're mindful of? Because obviously, we all know your resume. You're the guy. You're the go-to guy for exciting fights. But I guess my question, just to repeat it, is there pressure to do that? Or are you looking for the win more than anything?
I'm looking for the win. The bonus would be nice, and that stuff. But I wouldn't risk losing a fight for getting a bonus. If it came down to one or the other, Obviously, I'm looking for the win, but I want to have an exciting win. You know, I'm not a guy that's going to go and just take someone down and lay on him and just, you know, try to coast out to a decision. But, you know, I do feel like I'm gonna have a good opportunity to get one of those bonuses. You know, I don't look at like I have to, you know, beat them all. I look at it as the entire card has to beat me out. You know, I think I have the best record at getting bonuses. I think that, you know, they're more worried about, you know, me getting the bonuses than I'm worried about them. Even though it is an amazing card and the whole entire thing is stacked and it's superstar after superstar, you know, I like my chance. I like my odds.
Okay. All right. What do you think about this whole Conor McGregor phenomena? Because he's being billed kind of as like, even though he's not from Boston, the Irish heritage coming out of that town and that whole storyline is being kind of really built up to almost where he's like the hometown favorite. But in all reality, you're the hometown guy there. What do you think about that?
You know, I'm impressed by Conor McGregor. You know, like I have people all the time telling me about how, you know, oh, so and so, you know, you got to see this kid from my gym. You got to see this kid from my gym. And then, like a little over a year ago, I went down to Chicago and I played paintball. And one of the kids I was playing with, my buddy Carl, was telling me, oh, I got this kid. You know, he's a kid from Ireland. I got this, you know, this guy that trains at my gym. He's gonna be a beast. He's gonna be the next big thing. And like, you know, looking anyone else, I'm like, yep, I've heard this before. And then he's talking about Conor McGregor, who just storms onto the scene, you know, knocking people out left and right. You know, super talented, exciting, has tons of personality. You know what I mean? I don't think Conor McGregor has to be the best fighter. I just think it's a recipe where, you know, for success, people are going to get behind the kid. He's exciting. He tries to knock people out. He comes out, he fights hard. You know, like I'm definitely on the Conor McGregor hype train. You know, for sure. I mean, I'm impressed by him. You know, at the same time though, Max Holloway, I'm super impressed by too. I know another Hawaiian guy. You know, super talented. You know, but I think the big difference is I think Max Holloway comes out and he's more of a speed guy. You know, I think he, you know, hits people, whereas Conor McGregor seems like he's a little more power oriented, but also pretty quick. But so it's going to be really interesting to see how Holloway and McGregor goes. You know, I think it's going to be an awesome fight.
So you think the hype is well deserved then?
I think it's well deserved, you know, but I think that, you know, Max Holloway is super fast too, you know, so I think that it's a great test. You know, I'm gonna be, you know, I'll be glued to the TV watching this one.
Right. Okay, now let me ask you this, man. I was talking to George earlier, and I was saying it doesn't seem like it was that terribly long ago, and maybe I just have a really like bad short-term memory or something. But it doesn't seem like it was that long ago that you were on the Ultimate Fighter, you know, with BJ, and now we fast forward, you know, to current date, and you have Fox. They're featuring your video blogs and all this stuff, you know, and you get all this recognition and all this attention, and I want to know, what do you attribute that to? Do you attribute your popularity just to your performances, or what is that?
I think a couple things. I think, you know, having so many, you know, fights that get bonuses is a big part of it. I think that I'm pretty smart about all the social media stuff, and I think I'm pretty good at interacting with people and all that other stuff. BJ is a big reason why we do all the video blogs, you know, because he was talking, you know, when we were on the Ultra Fight, he was talking all about the BJPen.com idea he had and all the videos and all this kind of stuff. And that was something that, you know, after a couple fights later, I decided, you know what, let's do some video blogs, you know, and it started for us, but, you know, because when I fought Pulver, we had like 0 pictures pretty much of the entire week, you know, and all kinds of really funny stuff happened during the week, and we had like nothing to you know, kind of take it back. And, you know, but because of that, talking to BJ, things like that, that was part of the reason why we did all the video blogs, which have done very, very well. You know, so I'm pretty happy about how, you know, the fans have kind of, you know, taken me a little bit. You know, like I get tons of support. You know, obviously, you know, being close to BJ helps a lot. You know, getting all his guys. You know, and you know, I've been super fortunate to have all the you know, the success I've had, and then especially all the fans.
Amazing.
So, Joe, you know, I know most fighters they don't want to talk about, you know, don't want to talk ahead of what's right in front of them, and you still have the fight this weekend. You know, you still have to win this fight. But when you look at the lay of the land, you know, you're in an interesting position. You know, the fans really, really love you. I mean, I was just on the Underground a few hours ago. You posted your newest video blog, and it's nothing but praise for you, your fighting style. You just have so many people that are so appreciative of the way you fight and how you entertain them inside the cage. And you have a lot of good victories over former world champions and guys who are on the cusp of title shots. So is that something you kind of still think about? Do you still kind of you look at you've had these fights with guys like Pettis, and are those fights you want back? And do you still kind of look at the title as something you want?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely something I would like to get to. You know what I mean? Like, my biggest issue is consistency. You know what I mean? Whether, I'm bumping injury during training or just, maybe I just have a night that's not my night, I train to the best of my ability. I train really hard. I seek out and I try to train with the best people I can. It's just, sometimes you come up a little bit short. I think that, everyone, every champion, everyone all the way around, there's a certain element of luck that's there for every single guy. Not getting hurt, bumping heads during grappling or something and not getting cut. There's a lot that goes into it, and a lot of it is just, like I said, just like a little bit of luck. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think it would take a lot. If I have a couple wins that I put together, you know what I mean, and someone else gets hurt, I think I could definitely be a guy that could be, fighting for a title or something like that. So, you know what I mean? It's definitely like a long-term goal, but 100% focus on Saturday. Like, I'm not even thinking about anything else. I have to, coming off a loss, got to get that win, got to get that bonus, and I'm just focused on Saturday.
Yeah, again, you've had so many great fights with, like really the Jim Miller fight sticks out to me as, and I think it sticks out to a lot of people as one of your performances that was just, gritty and gutsy to the very end, with the leg locks and the blood everywhere. Do you look back at those fights and you're like, man, I'd like, is it like, wow, that was hell, or was it? Or do you look back at it now and like, man, that was fun. I would do that again with that guy, and I think I could beat him a second time around.
Well, I think that pretty much everyone lost. I would love another crack at him. Every single one. But you don't always get that opportunity. I felt like earlier in my career, like when I lost a couple fights, like I was like, oh, I want to get that one back. I want to get that one back. And it was just like, you know what? Let's just stop reminding people of that fight I lost. Let's just move on and fight whoever's next. And if we end up, meeting one of these guys again, and then so be it, But, you know what I mean? Like, it sucks when you beat someone and then they're hounding you. They want to rematch. So I didn't want to be that guy. I just wanted to let it go. And I got kicked in the face by Pettis. Of course, I would love to get that back, but you know what? He's fighting for the title soon. The last thing he wants to hear is about me, saying, oh, I want it back. I want another chance. You know what I mean? You know what? He beat me. I'm not going to worry about it. I'm going to just keep on moving forward and focus on everything else.
Awesome. All right, Mr. Lauzon. My last question for you is going to be this. Give us your prediction for your fight, if you can. I know that's kind of a baited question, and it's always full with the generic answer, but I still want the quote, man. And also, give us a prediction for the main event too. We'll just throw that in there as well.
I think that I am going to win my fight in spectacular fashion with a submission of the night.
All right. And the main? How do you think that's going down?
For the main event, you know what I mean? I'm liking Chael. I think that, Chael, the only two people Chael's lost to, people are giving him a lot of crap because he's coming off a loss and everything else. Only two people Chael's lost to in like 4 years is Anderson Silva and John Jones. And they're both on the pound for pound, top 3 or 4 list for sure. So I'm going to go with Chael over Shogun. You know what I mean? Like, I think that, Shogun hasn't had the best record about going to decision. I think Chael is going to, take him down. I don't think Shogun can really do anything to stop him. It's going to be a case of, the fight starts on the feet, so Shogun's going to try to catch him on the way in. But, I think that Chael's going to get it done. And he's going to have the most amazing, epic post-fight speech after, which is what I'm really looking forward to.
Well, there it is, guys. Joe Lauzon agreeing with the odds makers in Vegas, picking Chael Sonnen. All right, Joe, thank you very much for your time, man. We won't keep you any longer. I know it's a busy week for you, but thank you for taking a few minutes out with us while you're preparing for this weekend.
Anytime, guys. Thanks for having me.
All right, have a good night.
You too. Later.
All right. George, what do you think about that prediction from Mr. Lauzon, man? You think he's on the money there picking Sonnen over Shogun or what?
I must have fallen victim to the hype because I was like thinking in my head for the past however long, like, oh yeah, Shogun should be able to beat Chael, but he really made some good points just now. Like, yeah, stylistically, it is a bad fight for Shogun, A, and B, he has only lost to like really good pound for pound guys.
Yeah, but come on,
So-
dude. Shogun's a beast on the ground, even off his back, right? Like this dude just doesn't sit dormant on the ground, bro. You
How
know?
many submissions does Shogun have off his back?
Yeah, but how many does he threaten? And they look scary. Like once you get him to the ground, you're not out of the woods. And how many times has Sonnen lost by submission? You know what I mean?
I think okay. It depends on the type of submission you're picking here. I would say like the highest percentage submission for Shogun would be to catch Chael in some sort of leg lock. He seems to be very apt at heel hooks and leg locks. Whether he's able to catch him with one, I don't know, but that's possible. I don't know, man. You know, here's the thing about submissions, and you know I'm a big jiu-jitsu guy. I train like crazy, and the only thing I can tell you about guys when your submissions are good, and the dude you're fighting knows your submissions are good, it's much easier to train to just avoid those submissions. It's easy to put yourself in situational positions and be like, all right, work your way out. Don't get submitted. After doing that hundreds and hundreds of times, you get really good at it. And if you know, I don't know, you know, Chael worked in a different camp too. There are some different factors, you know, like I think Chael is working at right down the street from you, Mark Munoz's camp, isn't he?
Yeah, like basically across the street from me. Yeah. Don't anybody come and try to find me now, but yeah, pretty close.
Right. So, you know how detrimental that can be, and even you know as good as Mark's camp is, it's just a change of scenery. Those changes can affect things, so that's possible. Also, there's a lot of different things going into the fight, but more than anything, also is that Shogun's going to be a bigger guy. He's a legit 205-pound fighter. So we'll see. You know, we'll see. Again, it's a lot of different things that play into it, but you know, we'll see how it plays out.
Yeah. Next up on our docket is Max Holloway. He's fighting Conor McGregor, the guy we were just talking about with Joe. Max is obviously he's one of the Hawaii guys making his way through the ranks right now, so we're going to be happy to have him on. What do you think about Conor McGregor, man? Honestly, I'm going to tell you right now what I think of Conor McGregor is he has one UFC fight, and he won that fight. It was on the prelims. You know, can't take that away from him. He looked good. You know, he knocked the guy out. I mean, he pretty much dominated him. And Marcus Brimage is no joke. That's who he fought. You know what I mean? But the way that he talks, man, there's just something that maybe I like the more humble guys, because the way that Conor McGregor talks just seems to be a little bit ridiculous to me. He's already talking about a title shot. He wants a title shot. I mean, and he will not shut up about how awesome he is. And I'm like, dude, you know, your record's awesome. You know, you're on a nice win streak and everything like that. You won your UFC debut, but it was just your UFC debut. You know, I mean, he has a lot more to prove. And I just, personally, I'm just saying, from the entertainment side and the way the whole storyline has played out, I would love to see the upset. Regardless of if we had Max Holloway on the show or not, it has nothing to do with that. You know how I am. I keep it real. I would just love to see the upset and get this guy humbled a little bit.
Yeah, I kind of have the similar sentiments of when I hear guys run their mouth like that. I think Conor's extremely talented. He's the more experienced fighter. He's definitely not the more experienced fighter in the UFC, but you know, man, he's talking a big game. If he wins, you know, he's throwing it all on the line. You know, if he wins, he's going to make himself a big star. Dana really likes him. His placement on this card is definitely very calculated, and you know, if he can pull off all the shit he's talking, then it's going to be, you know, he's going to make himself a big star. You know, that's really what it comes down to. And you know, some people are going to like it, some people are going to hate it. It just some of it gets kind of annoying after a while. I think the only thing that really annoyed me was the Korean Zombie and all. He had some comments about them after that fight, and it's just like, man, those are guys that are proven commodities in other promotions and the UFC, and they have beaten top level guys, and he probably needs to wait a little bit before he talks like that.
Exactly. I mean, we'll see what happens. I mean, he obviously is a good fighter, but I mean, I just think, here in the UFC, it's a totally different ballgame, right?
Yeah, and we'll see. Max Holloway is tough, man. He's really tough, and I have a feeling, and we're gonna ask him right now. He didn't really let much out in his video blog that he released. It was mostly just him doing his strength training. But we'll ask him. But I'm kind of curious of what he thinks about this entire he's really, it's like the Conor McGregor show for this fight. It's not really
right. Max
Holloway.
He's completely under the radar right now. I bet if you asked 9 out of 10 casual fans, they wouldn't even know who Conor McGregor was fighting. They just know he was fighting.
Right. And Max Holloway is the one with the UFC experience, and he's a very, very tough fighter, and I imagine that he's going to come very motivated to win. Now, Conor is very sharp. He hits really hard. We'll see, man. I know what you know, and that Hawaiians don't go down easy, okay, from punches. So, that's just fact, okay. There's many, many names that can be cited and I'm not just talking about BJs. I'm talking about Cabbage. There's a lot of people that just don't go down when you hit them.
Yep.
And Hawaiians are tough, and that's exactly that's another angle that people forget. That's what makes this really interesting fight. Is that Max is going to go out there and bang with him.
Yep, it's going to be interesting for sure. Who are you picking in that fight, man?
It's tough. I'm going to kind of. I was going to wait till we talk to Max to kind of get an idea of how what he thought about the training and what he thinks about Conor's style and things like that. It's kind of I'm kind of a blank slate with with what work he's got, what work he's gotten in, because this wasn't the fight that Conor was supposed to have.
You're right. Who was he supposed to fight? I don't remember.
He was supposed to fight.
Was it Brad Pickett or something like that?
No, it wasn't Brad Pickett. It was he was supposed to fight now. Who are we going to ask? Can we get Adam to tweet it?
Yeah, he'll tweet it. Yeah. Anyways, he was supposed to fight somebody else, and Holloway's coming in on short notice.
It was an English fighter, wasn't it?
It was.
I don't remember who it was, but at any rate, how much time Max Holloway had to prepare? I don't know. Or not really how much time did he have to prepare, but how good of shape was he in when he got the announcement? Like, was he already ramping up? He was supposed to fight Andy Ogle. That's who it was.
Buddy, that's right. I think that Max, for all intents and purposes, is probably a tougher opponent than Andy, for sure. I don't think probably. I think it's definitely. So Conor McGregor's getting a tougher opponent in Max, but obviously, we have Max coming in on shorter notice, so.
Right, and that's what's going to be, I guess that was on the July 10th. So I mean, that gives him about 5 weeks notice, right?
Yeah, plenty of time.
I don't know if I'd say it was plenty of time, but I would say that if he's in good shape, if he was already in good shape, then he should have been, and he should have been, because I think he fought in Max Holloway fought in May.
Yeah, I'm going to say he's in good shape. He trains with BJPenn.com's Lynn Mitchell out there in Hawaii, too. Just shout out to Lynn over there.
Oh, yeah, that's right. So,
we know the training's good.
Yeah, I'll be curious to see, like I said, that between May is when he fought May 25th. You're asking for a fight on August 17th, and he finds out about the fight on July 10th. So what happened between May 25th and July 10th? Was he still, was he back in the gym? Did he take time off? Those are like kind of the question marks where I'm not sure. I think that if this was like, okay, Conor McGregor is fighting Max Holloway, and that was the original fight announcement, my view and take on this fight would be very different, because Max would have been completely 100% prepared for Conor McGregor, would have focused his camp around him.
Yep. Here's a question for you. Who had more hype? Conor McGregor or Justin Lawrence? You remember Justin Lawrence from The Ultimate Fighter?
Yeah, Conor McGregor by far.
You think so? Justin Lawrence, the Team Black House guy that was dominating everybody on The Ultimate Fighter? That dude had a lot of hype, man. No, remember nobody wanted to fight him?
Yeah, Conor McGregor by far.
But is it Conor McGregor because Conor McGregor creates his own hype?
It's Conor McGregor because Conor McGregor already has. Well, yeah, that Justin Lawrence didn't have Dana White riding him around in his Ferrari. You know, to his 2 million Twitter followers and everybody else. You know, he's definitely very well received by the upper management at the UFC, and that does help when you want to be noticed, and being sitting by Dana's side is not exactly bad for exposure.
Right, and the whole reason why I brought that up is obviously Max welcomed Justin Lawrence into the UFC. You know, when that guy was really hyped up, and now he's also facing Conor McGregor, who's another really hyped up commodity that the UFC is trying to build. So I just wanted your take on that. And Max beat him. You know what I mean? Like that hype didn't bother him.
Yeah, it's definitely a similar dynamic, but Conor McGregor definitely is extremely more hyped. Conor McGregor's almost I almost hear as much stuff about Conor as I did about Brock Lesnar when he first got into the UFC. It's like he's like the marketing behind and his confidence is extremely high. It's very, very strange, for a guy who's only had one fight in the UFC, and a lot of fans haven't been exposed to it. But he did win that fight in exciting fashion, and it was over, like you said, it was over a good opponent, Marcus Brimage, and I guess that was enough to feed the hype.
Yeah, it's interesting. You're right, man. Because was it today or I think it was yesterday. Actually, the UFC released his open workout video. You know, you're talking about the UFC held an open workout for Conor McGregor. They filmed it with Megan O'Leary being the narrator, right? Which Megan O'Leary is a well-known female journalist in the sport, right? They produced it, and this isn't a main card fighter we're talking about. This is somebody on the prelims, but yet they're still giving him all this attention. It's pretty interesting.
Yeah, I saw the same video you're talking about. He's not even in the main or the co-main event, and he was featured.
He's on the prelims. He's not even in the featured prelim bout. Like, he's just in the middle of the prelim lineup.
Yeah, that's how much backing he's got right now by that company. They really, and again, he does have that kind of it thing that a lot of fighters are missing. That he's able to kind of connect with the crowd, and he's able to talk and cut that promo, and that seems to be something that a lot of fighters are missing, that mouth, and a lot of guys don't want it, but it definitely is something that he's got. His ability to promote himself is definitely extremely good, and it helps. He's a talented fighter as well. But I think that's the missing piece of the puzzle that the UFC really likes, is that he is kind of like that brash and outspoken guy, but he's extremely confident when he does it, and he's looked good, albeit only one UFC fight, which again is what makes this fight so interesting with Max Holloway, who is he is a proven commodity in the UFC. He's had good victories over opponents that have had long tenure in the UFC, and yet the guy's kind of flying under the radar and is almost viewed as like a sacrificial lamb to a guy that doesn't nearly have that octagon experience that he has, and I kind of wonder what the mentality is for something like that. Is almost none of the pressure is on Max. He's got to go in. He gets to go into Boston, which is being billed as a second hometown, a home away from home for Conor, but he gets to go there and try to play the spoiler. And there's no pressure on him. The pressure's on Conor to win. And he gets to go in there and kind of, play the upset. So I imagine that he's probably extremely motivated to go in there and really get after Max. Or actually really get after Conor. And Max is probably really gonna come after, I'll say I don't expect him to come out swinging like crazy like Marcus Brimage did. I don't expect him to come out like really super, super aggressive. I expect him to be more calculated. He's going to be extremely relaxed in the octagon. There's a lot to be said about having multiple UFC appearances under your belt. Max Holloway, he's fought in the UFC, probably 5 times now. He's had these fights against guys like Leonard Garcia, and I think his opening fight he fought Dustin Poirier. That's a guy's a top contender. And as Pedro alluded to, he's also fought guys who were also extremely hyped up, guys like Justin Lawrence. He was talking about that, and he is right. There are some parallels that they do share. And Justin Lawrence was extremely hyped coming off The Ultimate Fighter, or during The Ultimate Fighter. He was like the next Anderson Silva. I had completely forgotten about all that. And he's right. A lot of people didn't want to fight him, and that hype was built up. And what did Max go in there and do? He went in there and knocked the guy out. So you never know how things are going to work out. You never know how things are going to. When they're fights, anything can happen in the octagon. And what we're accustomed to seeing, are these upsets when you least expect it, So, and this would definitely be a big upset if, if Max can come into Boston and really play the spoiler for a guy that's being hyped up by Dana, hyped up by the UFC, hyped up by the mixed martial arts media. Here he is appearing all over, some of the most well-known MMA media, podcasts and shows. Definitely highly touted, and he's extremely talented. Whether he is due all the high praise he's getting right now so early, that yet remains to be seen. But we need to see. We're going to need to see how it all plays out. There's definitely a big skill gap between fighting in the independents and when you come up and fight in the UFC. Right now, we're just waiting to get Max Holloway on the line. So as soon as we get him on the line, we'll begin to find out exactly where he's at in this training camp, or with this training camp. With the short notice. Again, July 10th is kind of when it came out to the public that Andy Ogle was out, and you're talking about roughly a 5-week turnaround between then and August 17th, which is fight day. So, is that enough time? Was he in good enough shape? Some guys, when the fight's over, they need to reset. They need to step away from the gym. They need to take that break. And some guys are back in the gym immediately the next day, and we have to see what where Max was with this camp. It definitely it's hard to go from one camp to the next, but he did fight. I think May 25th was his last fight, and that wouldn't leave. It's not like a crazy turnaround or anything like that, but if you're not prepared and with only 5 weeks notice, there's only so much you can do. So you got to look at it that way too. There's really only so much you can there's really only so much you can squeeze into 5 weeks, especially particularly if you haven't been in shape the whole time. So we'll see what goes on. As far as the other fights on the card, we were also supposed to have Uriah Faber on here. Again, the media is so crazy right now for this Fox Sports 1. It's a launch of a network. It's the initial card getting launched on there, so there's so much media going on. So again, it's kind of hard to get guys who are cutting weight and things like that. So we're definitely working on it. We're definitely working on trying to round up some of these guys who've been running around Boston, cutting weight, running around with their camps and all this stuff. So we'll take it as it comes at this point. But if we can get a couple guys calling in, they told us they would try to call in if they could, and we'll definitely we'll hopefully be able to get a couple people on and talk to them from the event and kind of see what the atmosphere is like. This is a big card. I know it means a lot to Dana and the UFC and the other Boston guys that are on the card. Guys like Joe Lauzon, guys like John Howard, who's making his return to the UFC. Another big fight for him. He's fighting a guy who's extremely hyped up, Uriah Hall.
Yes, he is. Yes, he is. What's up, George?
Yeah, you better get talking.
We got Max on the line right now. Mr. Holloway, what's up?
What's up, buddy?
Not much, man. Not much. You got a big weekend coming up, man.
Yeah, big weekend. Fox Sports 1, can't wait.
I know. So, talk about this, because this has kind of been the topic of discussion for a couple weeks now. It's been the topic of our radio show tonight for a big portion of the broadcast, and that's the fact that Conor McGregor is getting so much hype. We haven't seen this type of hype around a fighter since Brock Lesnar, And it's a real interesting kind of dynamic. It's a real interesting thing, but that's true. You know what I mean? He's getting so much hype. You're in there to mess up this hype and derail that train, man. And what are your thoughts on this?
Hello?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, yeah, it is what it is, like I've been saying and telling everybody is that Holloway had his superstar, his superstar is BJ Penn, and if they can potentially see you as you being a superstar and bringing a whole other country or state into UFC, then they kind of put a little extra time into you, and that's what I think they're doing with McGregor. He's the first Ireland guy or whatever, and he had a big first fight UFC win, so it is what it is, and I just can't wait to fight him on Saturday.
Did you get enough notice for this fight, Max? Because you're kind of in as the replacement opponent, but it wasn't super short notice. But have you had enough time to prepare?
Oh, definitely. I feel like this is the best camp I had to date, and we're not going to really know until I fight Saturday, but I feel super great. I had a great strength and conditioning. I had a great camp. I had great partners around me, great people, positive vibes the whole time, and I was super excited.
Where does McGregor pose the most threat to you? You got to go in this fight. You got to go in smart. You don't want to let the hype train continue rolling. So, what area more than anything else do you have to avoid to make sure that you get the W this Saturday?
His mental game. For sure. So I think that's the most dangerous of him. He ends into he's like a Diaz brother. They get into your head, and then you kind of fight their fight, and then that's when you start losing. I respect him as a fighter and everything, but I think his just me not getting mad at the guy is probably the biggest thing to do, and not worry about his taunting and probably his talking in the cage, and that's what I think that is the biggest part of this fight.
Now, it's funny you mentioned the Diaz brothers, because everybody knows those guys like to talk trash and they get into their opponent's head. Now, McGregor, the same way. I know we have Josh Thompson on the show quite a bit. He's a good buddy of mine, And Josh said before he was fighting Nate that he had his sparring partners talk trash to him, throw their hands up, all this stuff, you know what I mean? This seems to be a common strategy when guys are fighting the Diaz brothers. Did you go that same route? Have you had some of the guys in your gym kind of talk trash to you and try to get in your head a little bit so you're more familiar with that come fight night?
Yeah, not really talk trash or not too much, but my training partners and my trainer, we're a team. We're a team, and when people got fights and people do certain things, and all the other fighters, the training partners watch on top of watch video on the guy, and then they come to the gym and they try to mimic him to key, and that's why I think my team is so good. They're willing to get beaten up. A lot of my partners are willing to get beaten up, so I can have a victorious fight.
Okay. I made the comparison before you got on the line with when you fought Justin Lawrence, you welcomed him to the UFC pretty much. You were his first fight out of the Ultimate Fighter house, and he had a ton of hype too. Not the same kind of hype that McGregor has, not with like the whole UFC backing him and all that stuff. But that was a real scary guy coming out of the Ultimate Fighter. We heard about him so much. He was getting all this media attention because he trains with guys like Anderson Silva and Lyoto Machida, and you put that hype to rest real quick. I'm wondering, can you draw off that experience, knowing like I've been here before against guys like this hyped, and we saw what happened last time?
Yeah, for sure. I kind of this is how I am. I'm most of my fights, or not most, all of my fights. I've been the underdog. It's not nothing new. It's whatever. I take one fight at a time, and if someone ain't get hyped, it's cool for them. Kudos for them. They're getting all this talk about, but it is what it is. When it's my turn to get talked about, I really want to earn it, and I want to feel like I earned it. So that's just what I keep on doing. I'm just gonna keep on climbing the ladder and just focus one fight at a time and try and get each fight W's.
Do you feel like what I'm kind of curious is, given like all we were talking about, the main thing we talk about Conor is all the hype he gives himself, the hype he's getting from the promotion, and the hype he's even getting from Dana. But do you think that is going to be, that could be like a problem for him too, because that could actually take away from the focus on the fight itself? Because you're a guy that's working hard in the gym, and I imagine that all the shit talking and all this nonsense probably is pretty motivating at this point.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely think he kind of he kind of gets pulled away from training. I guess he's been getting a lot of media stuff, like interviews and stuff. So, it is what it is. I just hope there's no excuses. When it comes Saturday night, I hope he trained hard, because I did, and I hope he's ready to put on a show, and because I'm ready, and I just can't wait to get in there, like what I said on Saturday.
You last fought in May. I think it was like the last week of May 25th or something like that. This is going to be, you're talking August 17th. When did you find out about the fight? Did you have about 5 weeks to notice? And what kind of break and condition were you in coming out of the last fight, heading into this one? Were you still in the gym? How was that little transition right there?
I think I got like a little over 4 weeks, or maybe 4, or a little over, a couple of days over, or whatever. But I was in the gym. I always get in the gym, especially after that loss. I took a break. I had some sore body parts. I took a short, like a week break, and then got right back into it. I like to stay active. Last year I got 4 fights. This year I wanted to get 4 fights again, but who knows? Another win this fight, get another book fight, and then hopefully get another book fight in November or so. And then if anything happens in December and people got to pull out, I'd love to take a fight. I just always try to stay ready, and just always try to stay in shape, because Hawaii is an expensive place to live, and I would just love to just keep on making money and supporting for my family.
Now, you mentioned, your last fight, Dennis Bermudez. You lost that fight. It was a close fight. You lost it via split decision. Prior to that, you were on a 3-fight roll. What do you take away from that? Does coming off a loss make you more hungry to perform this weekend?
Yeah, for sure. The saying is that you lose, you learn more from a loss than from a win, and I learned a lot more. I learned. I took some things out of my camp from my last fight that I should have not had taken out, and it kind of made me realize that I really needed it in. So, I did a lot of changes before the previous fight, and then kind of put everything back to store this fight and did more. So, I'm feeling great. I'm feeling strong, feeling healthy, and I just can't wait to, like I said, get in there Saturday night.
How do you win Saturday night, Max? Because we were talking with Joe Lauzon before you came on. He broke down your fight. Said you're kind of like the speed guy in there. You'll probably be the quicker striker. Quicker throwing quicker punches. Is that what you're going to depend on to kind of do and kind of use your speed to your advantage? Hello, Max, Mr. Holloway. George, are you there?
Yeah, I think we lost.
Oh, yeah, we lost you, man. Did you hear? Yeah.
Yeah, I heard the question.
Okay, cool. Go for it.
Okay, perfect. I was, but I feel like I'm the faster, lankier guy. So stick and move is obviously gonna come into play, and I would love to leave fight night with some type of bonus or two bonuses. Who knows? I just want out there, fight my heart out and get the victory.
Okay. What would you want next, man? I know you don't like to look past your next fight, your fight right now. But being that you're a very highly regarded fighter, you have, what is it, 5 fights in the UFC? And you've always been and you've been impressive. You know what I mean? Like you're always out there putting on a good fight. So if you get past Conor McGregor, and this is somebody who has so much hype, like we've beat that whole thing, till it's bloody now. He has hype, but you do it, and then do you think you deserve the hype? Do you think that hype gets transferred onto you? And if so, what do you want? You want to step up in competition and get kind of like some ranked guys going for you?
After this victory, we see when the time comes. I'm not in a rush. I'm 21. I got a lot of time. And I'll fight whoever. If the hype don't go to me after this fight, it's fine. It's cool. I'm gonna live, and I just want to stay active. If I could ask one thing of UFC, if I'd love to fight, like 3 to 4 times a year if possible, and just stay active and just keep putting on shows for the fans. And what I said, I want to earn my stripes, and I want to be respected in the sport, and that's just what I plan on doing. Whoever UFC put in front of me, I want to fight. To be the best, you got to beat the best, and I'll fight anyone anytime, and just stay ready.
When I look at this fight, I just and I talk about it with a lot of other people. I think people just get drowned out in a lot of the video blogs and a lot of the nonsense, and we've been calling it hype, but just the entertainment side that Conor is bringing to the table and into his UFC persona now. But when you strip all of that away and we just look at it as just the fighter, what kind of fighter do you see there? Like skill wise, when you strip all of that away, are you impressed, or is he the best fighter that you fought, and are you the best fighter he's fought?
I really think he's a well-rounded guy. He might be the best well-rounded fighter I fought, but who knows? I gotta wait till we get in there and we see if I'm the best fighter he fights Saturday night. So I don't really like saying too much or whatever. So I all I'm gonna say is that I think he's a super good well-rounded fighter. He got striking, he got wrestling, and I think he got some submission wins. So I think he's good all around.
Do you think that he's still going to be lacking a little bit of that UFC experience? You've got, I guess we talked about it before, but you've got 5 fights at the UFC. You've been in there with some of the more well-known guys, people that in great fights, really entertaining fights also, and you kind of have that experience already under your belt. For him, he didn't really have that long drawn-out octagon appearance to maybe get those jitters out. And he's going into a fight where he's being extremely highly promoted, a home away from home and things like that. Do you kind of feel that's really kind of playing to your advantage at this point?
I don't really see it with McGregor. He got so much confidence and so much hype that I think that it doesn't really bother him. I think he comes to fight, and I think he's gonna show up to this fight. And he fought big shows in Ireland. And his main events are big shows in Ireland. So I think this is just another fight for him, just like me. And I just can't wait to mix it up.
How do you want to win, Max?
Oh, I want to stoppage, and I think I'm due for a stoppage, So I want to stop this guy, get in there, get out, and that'd be the perfect way to kind of put an end to this guy,
Yeah, right on. Do you think that the short camp, like you kind of had like a shorter training camp than a lot of fighters take, than you're probably used to even? But do you think that I've heard from other guys that it kind of helps in a way because you definitely don't overtrain? You know what I mean? So you're going in with less nicks and less bumps and bruises and stuff.
Yeah, for sure. You get that, and then you don't have the mental taxing on you. You don't have the extra time to keep overthinking stuff or overdoing stuff, and I just think that it has its pros and its cons.
Okay, and how important is it for you not only to get the win, but like let's say to get the win for Hawaii, because Hawaii obviously is a very proud state. The culture is a very proud culture, and Hawaiians are used to having winners. You know what I mean? So with BJ Penn, Kendall Grove, Cabbage. I mean, there's a deep rooted history there in mixed martial arts. It's definitely a fight state. So do you kind of carrying that flag on your shoulders now? Because really, it's only you and Brad, that are really kind of doing like the bigger things in the UFC. So I mean, what are your thoughts on that whole situation?
Yeah, for sure. When I fight, I got like the whole Hawaii behind me. And it feels great, to bring a win back home and back to Hawaiian Islands and kind of try and get Hawaii out there again and put Hawaii on the map, and it's just a great feeling.
I think George is trying to talk, but his mic's on mute.
Actually, what I was saying was that the whole theme of the show has kind of been the Boston strong and that the Irish fighting spirit and all that nature. And what I was saying earlier is that the Hawaiians actually have that attribute also. It's known for having the same thing. Do you kind of see that same parallel and theme between the two of you? Because again, Hawaiians are bangers, bro. From BJ to Cabbage. He mentioned all the names. So you do you feel like you kind of bring some of those same attributes to the table?
Yeah, for sure. Having people is made a little different. And I think that's in a good way. You kind of grow up kind of knucklehead and fighting and stuff and whatever, but yeah, I definitely think I kind of strive off of that, the same thing as what they're trying to strive off of. And I think Hawaii is like a fighting culture, everybody's, whenever you talk to a Hawaiian and stuff, they always talking about fighting for their land and stuff. So I definitely think Hawaii is a fighting culture.
Do you do all your training in Hawaii, or do you ever go out to the mainland and do any training?
I do all my training at home. At Gracie Technics in Italy. That's all my training I do. The only time I went to the mainland to train was with Jeremy Stevens, and he brought me up to mimic Anthony Pettis for him, and that's about it.
Was there ever any thoughts of getting any additional training in the mainland, or when you're looking at sparring partners for a guy like Conor, what's the best way, or any of these guys that because obviously there's a whole wealth of fighters that in your weight class that you could potentially be fighting at any time now. So what's the best way for you to round up sparring partners to kind of do you bring them out there, or do you think? Do you just kind of find what's best for you locally, or what do you think of the best way to get this done?
I definitely think there's a perks, to go out and train with other people. In the near future, I might even do that. Might take my training camp somewhere else, for a couple of weeks, and come back home and finish the training camp at home. And I just got great partners. What I said earlier, I got great partners. They go and study the guy for me, and then they come and they try their best to mimic the guy. And I do the same. When guys got fights, I go and watch. Even amateur guys, I try to watch the guys that they fight, and I try to mimic it for them. And that's how we get it in.
All right. What's up, George? Go ahead, speak on it.
No. I was going to ask him specifically, like, if he was able to find specific sparring partners for Conor that he thought, like, or was there anybody that he had around him specifically that he was like, well, that guy can emulate Conor real well, or that guy, or this guy would be perfect.
Okay.
Not really. There's not a whole ton of guys I think fights like McGregor. I think he's a special. His style that he fights is super special. And I really a lot of my guys, training partners, really have southpaws. I had a couple, and I had one of my friends from a different training camp in Hawaii come out and help me out. So, Conor McGregor is special. He's not like every other fighter that does stuff and whatever. He fights super different than your normal MMA fighter, and it was kind of hard getting partners, but I think we did a good enough job.
Okay. Now, let me ask you this, Max, and we won't keep you too much longer, but does any part of you have kind of like a chip on your shoulder for being kind of overshadowed in this fight? Or, I mean, you seem to be taking it really well, man. Like, you seem to be walking in to this weekend's fight really humble and kind of just like whatever about it, but I'm just curious because he's obviously getting all the attention, so no, any part of you, again, do you have a chip on your shoulder about that, or are you pretty much cool?
Yeah, no chip at all, he's getting all the attention, but I think I'm getting, he's doing open workouts and whatever and doing all that stuff, but that guy has to be fighting someone, and he's fighting me, so just as much as they're promoting him, I'm getting promoted too, so it's not even a problem, I feel great. I can't wait, and when my time comes for that, then I'll do it. I'll accept it. But right now I can't hate on that guy Shine, and I'm just gonna keep doing me and get in there Saturday night and fight my heart out.
Do you think it's easier for you this week because you don't have to do as much media as him, like the open workouts, like you said, and all this stuff, and you kind of get to focus on winning while he has to focus on media? Do you think that's a plus?
Yeah, for sure. I get to focus on my training, and my game plan, and kind of just, hang out. And I got to sightsee in Boston, today, and I just have a chill week. It doesn't sound pretty hectic, but then again, one day I might have to do it, and I'm gonna accept that day. But right now ain't the day, and I'm totally fine with it.
All right, right on, Max. All right, well, unless George has any more questions for you, I think we're done, man. George, done? Good? All right, George is good, Max. I want to say you composed yourself very well for only being 21 years old, entering your 6th fight in the UFC, man. It was an honor to have you on the show tonight, and hopefully let's talk soon. Maybe next week we'll get the victory interview. Sound good?
Yeah, sounds good. Thank you guys so much for having me on, man.
All right, thanks again, and good luck, man. Have a good week.
Thank you. You too.
All right.
So, do you have a fight prediction? After giving that, we were talking about giving a fight prediction after we talked to him. So.
Yeah, I don't. I just think he's a real humble guy. I didn't really expect him to be as humble as he was. Really kind of mature for his age, 21 years old, and he seems to have as good of, if not even a better head on his shoulders than than a lot of the guys we have on this show. So,
I think he's a dad and stuff like that, and I think that kind of like launches your maturity level a little bit. And he's definitely a humble guy, well spoken, and he doesn't seem to give too much of a damn about all the hype and promotion and attention that Conor's getting.
No, he doesn't at all, which I guess is where he should be, I mean, that's probably the right approach to take there.
Well, yeah, I mean, I guess he's just figuring that his time will come. I'll tell you what, if he pulls this off, in front of that Boston crowd on this launch day, he's definitely going to make a good name for himself.
Yeah. So what do you think, man? You mentioned predictions. I don't really have a prediction. I've seen Conor McGregor's fights. I think 3 of them is all I saw. So I haven't really done like a massive, extensive, research on him. But he's a good fighter. He's definitely aggressive on the feet. What do you think? You think he's going to win? You think Max is going to take it?
I haven't seen enough of Connor like high level exchanges to make any accurate assessment on his skills. He's definitely a powerful puncher. Um, you know, he's got a little more experience than Max. I don't know. It might be a wash. Again, it's not a guy that goes down. Hawaiians don't go down easy, bro. I think I said it a couple times already in this broadcast, but they don't go down easy. And Connor's going to be looking for a knockout. I think this has potential to be an exceptionally exciting fight. A good chance to be fight of the night. Because both guys are going to go out there and bang it out. Man, it's a tough decision for me to make, But if you put, I'm gonna go Max Holloway, and the reason I'm gonna go this upset is because Connor's been getting Connor does finish a lot of guys. A lot of them are first round blitzes. The first 2 minutes. We don't get to see a lot, and Holloway is not a guy that has ever gone away easily in any of his fights, including his UFC career, which is even more exceptional.
Only got to finish Max is Dustin, right? Poirier.
Yeah, and it was by submission. And whether it would happen a second time is, I don't know. Because with lightning strike twice, I think the guy was probably deer in the headlights when he fought him. I gotta go with the more experienced fighter, regardless of what the odds books say. I don't think Max Holloway is going to get knocked out in the first round. I think if it gets into the later rounds, you're going to be fighting a guy like Conor, who does not have, in any recent memory, he hasn't gone into the third round. I don't think he's gone 3 rounds in his career. So you have to. I have to take those things into question, and especially when you're fighting in the UFC, where the level of competition is going to be much higher. Now, granted, Marcus Brimage is a tough opponent, but I think Max Holloway is a better opponent. We'll see. I'm picking the upset here, and maybe I'm just completely wacky and out of my mind, but I'm picking the upset here.
Now, on the other hand, if Conor McGregor wins, right? Will we be back next week eating crow? Then if he beats, let's say not just wins, but if he can walk through Max Holloway in the first round like he's been doing so many other guys, then will we be saying that the hype was deserved? Oops, yeah, I guess he is pretty badass.
It won't be the first time I ate shit.
It's true though, right? If he can do it, we're talking about if Max, but if Conor beats him in the first round and completely just obliterates him, then is the hype deserved? I guess it probably would be then, right?
Yeah. Then we all eat shit.
Yeah. So we got
problem. Hey, I have no problem being wrong. Okay, it's not the first time it's happened.
Oh yeah,
definitely ain't gonna be the last. But the only way, listen. Picking fights is pretty much. I've had these talks with Dave Meltzer before, where even the best, most skilled odds makers on the planet only bet at the highest rate is 60% winning rate. Okay, that's the best. That means if you have the highest degree of knowledge and insider source, that's the best percentage that people are picking at. 60%. That's basically a slightly better than coin flip. Okay, so we can break this down all we want, but we're not even the best professional odds makers. So if the best odds makers are betting at 60, then we're probably substantially less than the coin flip. So, we can break it down all we want, but the only thing I can base it off of is the stats, and those are what the stats show me. And you and I kind of value UFC experience. You know, we kind of know how important it is. If you don't have it and you fight a guy who has it in the UFC, it does mean something.
Right. Do you know what the betting line is on this fight?
I haven't looked in a while. McGregor was a favorite. I don't know what. I have no idea what the line had changed to recently, though. But it's probably shifting a little bit. I would think that there'll be a little bit of. There could be some heavy betting coming in on McGregor the whole time. Who knows? It might shift even further.
Right.
I don't know.
I'm going to look that up right now. Let's see what we got here. Shall I?
Yeah, go ahead. I'm kind of curious to see what actually, you might as well give the odds on the Shogun fight.
Okay.
The Shogun and Chael. That'll be interesting too. I'm kind of curious to see how they're viewing that. You know, you've got a former light heavyweight champion and a legit 205er and against a guy who was a perennial contender at middleweight and has only lost the pound for pound guys. So
it looks to me. I'm just looking at the rest of these odds. Yeah, Conor McGregor is the second largest favorite on the card, next to Uriah Hall. No, excuse me, third. You have Uriah Hall is the largest favorite going into Saturday night, and then it goes Uriah Faber, and then Conor McGregor is the third highest favorite. He's at a -270 to Max Holloway's +230.
So Max Holloway's +230. That's not a bad bet. Again, I guess it just depends on how much stock you put into those quick finishes in these smaller organizations. If you believe that the blitz under Marcus Brimage was could strike multiple times, that lightning could strike multiple times, then bet the farm on McGregor.
Yep.
That's really what
safest bet on the night. If you're going for an underdog, Travis Brown, buddy. He's a +180. Overeem is a -220 on that. I don't really think that Alistair Overeem is going to win this fight. What do you think?
I think I'm picking Travis Brown.
Yeah, dude, I'm totally going Brown all the way. And I'm not like a huge Travis Brown fan, but I just look at it like, dude, yeah, Overeem's going to get knocked out, or he's going to get TKO'd or something like that.
I have been saying this about this one thing with Overeem for his entire career. You've heard me say it a million times.
Yeah, he's a front runner.
He's a front runner.
Yeah, I stole the words out of your mouth.
He's a front runner.
Yeah.
You know it. I know it. I think his coaches know it. It's a problem that certain fighters face, and you either are simply born with heart or you're not. And Overeem, he looks like a destroyer when he's the bully. When he's the bowling ball, he's a destroyer. But when he's the pin, not so much.
I tell you what, man. I'm a big Overeem fan. I like Alistair Overeem a lot. Okay. I think that he was his own worst enemy against Bigfoot. I think he probably should have won that fight if he wasn't so I don't want to say arrogant or cocky, but that's basically what he was, I guess, easiest way to put it. But he should have won that fight, and he didn't. But I think with Travis Brown, you have somebody who's completely different animal, super athletic dude, big, strong, powerful, fast, agile, and I think he's kind of like the new breed of fighter that we talk about all the time, and Alistair Overeem is not that new breed. He's that older breed of fighter, That being said, I mean, Overeem has impressed me time and time again. When he fought Todd Duffy in the Dream promotion, I thought Todd Duffy was going to give him a little bit better of a run for his money than he did. He completely walked across the ring and just smashed Todd Duffy. You know what I mean? Todd Duffy's also a legit heavyweight. You know what I mean? But for some reason, I just can't get it out of my head. I think Travis Brown takes it.
Well, like I said, the biggest problem with Overeem is that when he when he's destroying guys, it's awesome, because a lot of guys can't deal with the amount of sheer power and ferociousness that he has in his strikes. Overeem is not a volume striker. In fact, he always throws single shots. But his chin isn't very good, and he also, when he gets hit, the thing is that when you have a guy who's a really good bully and he can bully guys around the cage or the ring who can't deal with that kind of pressure, most guys fold and they go away, they get knocked out. Most of Overeem's opponents, that's what happens to. However, there are some ones that do stand up to the bully. And when they stand up to the bully, what happens? You saw what happens when Chuck stood up to the bully.
Yeah.
For the beginning of that fight, Overeem just beat him around. He beat him around.
Yeah, he did.
Okay.
And this was a prime Chuck Liddell we're talking about, people.
This is prime Chuck Liddell. Overeem beat his fucking ass around the ring. Okay.
Yeah.
However, Chuck is tough as nails. Okay, and he ain't gonna go away that easy. Especially prime Chuck Liddell didn't have a bad chin. Prime Chuck Liddell had an iron chin. Okay. And prime Chuck Liddell decided that he had enough of Overeem's bullying and decided to pop him in the face right back. And immediately when he hit him, Overeem had enough. And that was the end. And that is what happens a lot of times. You can say what you want about Brock Lesnar, cowering or whatever, but Brock Lesnar even proved that when you hit him, he'll at least fight back until he can't fight back anymore. That just hasn't been the case, and I think that Travis Brown presents that kind of problem that can possibly eat Overeem's best strikes and hand them right back.
Yeah, I think so. I remember when Brown fought Bigfoot. I mean, they both have losses to Bigfoot Silva, right? But Brown's was due to an injury. He busted his knee in the middle of that fight. But prior to that busted knee, he was looking pretty good. My only point with saying that is that I believe that this dude can actually hang with the top tier of the division, and I think he's going to prove that Saturday night for sure.
Yeah, I mean, this is a big fight for Overeem he really needs to win this. But again, it's happened numerous times. It happened to Overeem in kickboxing. Even in kickboxing, where he's a world champion, he won the K1 Grand Prix. But even in kickboxing, it happened to him there. So it's not like it's he's had hard fights. Overeem has had hard fights against smaller, faster, more athletic opponents, even in kickboxing. People forget that he may train with Tyrone Spong, but he also fought Tyrone Spong.
Yeah.
So,
he beat him.
He beat him, but Tyrone Spong took it to him.
Man, I was at his fight last weekend. Speaking of Spong.
Yeah, Tyrone Spong took it to him, and they battled it out. And that's a 205er.
Yep.
Okay, that's a 205er. So again, Travis Brown's he's going to be able to take a good punch. He's going to hand it back. My question with Overeem is always going to be: are we going to get vicious Overeem that is a little bit gassed up, or are we going to get the front runner Overeem that is going to fade and fall?
The big thing is about that fight is if Alistair Overeem does not win, he's completely done. He goes from having any hope or a prayer of ever fighting for the UFC title to never having hope or a prayer for fighting for the UFC title. That's what I think. I think that this is he has been able to capture every single championship belt that he's gone after, except for the UFC title, which is obviously the toughest title in combat sports. I think that that's being proven more and more every day. But if he does not win this fight, if he drops 2 in a row, and if he goes into the UFC, that would make him 1-3 with his only win over an ailing Brock Lesnar. He has no chance. I mean, the hype train will be officially over, and he will be scaled down to just an entertainer and not a contender.
I will have to agree with that, and it's not getting any easier to beat a guy like Cain Velasquez, by the way. Okay.
Oh yeah.
Cain Velasquez is learning more skills right now. He's not even at his peak. Cain Velasquez is getting better. Junior Dos Santos is getting better. And in retrospect, can you think about that was the fight that was supposed to go down. It was supposed to be Overeem and Dos Santos.
Yeah.
That was the fight that people wanted to see. And I had no confidence in Overeem winning that fight.
Right, me either.
I had none. As bad as people wanted to see it,
I wanted to see that fight really bad.
I just had no, none whatsoever. This is, again, it's just, if you're going to fight at heavyweight, you have to be able to deal with that onslaught that some of these guys are going to bring. And when you have been, when you've been overwhelmed by light heavyweights, I mean, Shogun overwhelmed him, Chuck Liddell overwhelmed him, Arona, it just, I just remember, these things stick out in my mind, So, we'll see what happens, but I favor Travis Brown slightly. I favor Travis Brown only because Overeem's, again, a bit of a front runner. But I do definitely concede that Overeem is a guy that has enough skill and technique in his one-punch kick or knee to end a fight with anybody in that heavyweight division.
He does. You're right. All right, let's do this, man. Let's get off the air here in a few minutes. But let's go over this card real quick, because honestly, dude, it's a sick night of fights. And let's just run down our predictions real quick, and then we'll bounce off the air. We'll just go from the opening bout to the main event. And first bout is Ramsey Nijem and James Vick. I'll pick Ramsey. I don't really know much about James Vick, so that's an easy pick for me. George?
Yeah, Ramsey. I'm going with Ramsey also. Ultimate Fighter experience. He's got twice as much professional fight experience too. I'm picking Ramsey.
Okay. Next one on the docket is Cody Donovan versus your teammate, Owen St. Preux. Mr. OSP. I'm going with your hometown guy, dude. I'm going with your fellow ATTian OSP.
Yeah, I actually trained with OSP the last couple weeks. He is a massive, massive man that would absolutely obliterate me. So I'll never say anything bad about the guy. But beyond that, yeah, he's a super, super nice guy, and we are going to have him on the show. We just haven't scheduled it yet, but we are going to have him. But at any rate, he's a really impressive guy. He's really looking good, and again, vastly more experienced than Cody Donovan. So yeah, going OSP.
All right, now this is how sick this card is. We've already named Ramsey Nijem fight and the OSP fight next on the list. These are just the Facebook prelims, mind you. We have Manny Gambirian versus Cole Miller. And I'll tell you something, man. I'll go in a little bit more detail than just spouting out a name this time. When Manny was on The Ultimate Fighter, you realize that if his shoulder didn't pop out, he was probably going to beat Nate Diaz, and he would have been the Ultimate Fighter winner, right? Do you agree with me there?
Yes,
had his shoulder not popped out in that fight, yeah. I mean,
it looked like he was about to win. Yes.
Yeah, he was going to win. So that being said, he's nothing like that fighter. He has never his best showings were on that reality show, and I don't think he's ever looked the same since. He looked great on that show. He looked great against a guy like Nate Diaz. He's a featherweight fighter in the UFC now, and I don't think he looks that good. I think that if he can return to form, if he can return to that guy that was about to take out Nate Diaz on The Ultimate Fighter, he can beat Cole Miller just because he's an explosive, strong dude and he can muscle him around. We know that Cole is not Mr. Buff, you know what I mean? But I think that the chances of that happening are very slim. Cole is going to be more polished, more technical, and again, another one of your ATT teammates. So we'll go with ATT Cole Miller. I'm picking him to win. I'll say by decision. I just think a decision, maybe submission, but decision.
Yeah, I'm going Cole Miller also. He's been down training with Chukau at Coconut Creek. I already know the group of savages are down there getting him ready. But yeah, I'm going Cole Miller. I do concede that Manny's a tough fighter. That Cole's strength, as well as I do, is his submissions, and Manny's not going to be easy to submit, even for Cole being a black belt. not going to matter. I'm going Cole with a 3-round decision. It could be a good fight, though. They could be back and forth.
All right. And then on the preliminary card, it's interesting because Fox Sports 1 is going to host 4 fights on the preliminary card and then 6 fights of the main card. So they're actually holding 10 fights live on television. So the FS1 prelim card starts out with Diego Brando versus Daniel Pineda. It's an easy one to call. Brando all day. Pineda going to get washed out. That's my thought.
Diego Brandau's a beast, man.
He is, dude. He is.
Yeah, I've talked to Jucal about him. I'm going Diego Brandao
All
by
day.
some sort of vicious knockout, or possibly, if you can survive the punch, you might get strangled on the ground a couple seconds later.
Yep. Okay.
So.
Yeah, that's an easy one to call. I think next on the list we have Mike Brown versus Steven Seiler, and again, this is another one of those fights where coulda, shoulda, woulda. Probably not going to happen for Mike Brown. He's coming out of retirement. Well, he's not actually. He already came out of retirement, didn't he? But he hasn't been that active. This is the guy, mind you, that ended Uriah Faber's long run as the featherweight champion. Mike Brown has been an awesome fighter in his day when he was with the WEC before he met a guy named Jose Aldo, right? I mean, Mike Brown was the man. I thought that he was a really tough dude, and he's just another one of these guys that hasn't lived up to his past performances. Steven Seiler, on the other hand, has always impressed me. This dude had impressed me when he took out Cole Miller. I went to bet. I would have bet everything on Cole Miller to win that fight, right? And Seiler shut me up real fast. So, that being said, I think that he takes it to the former WEC champ and beats him some way, somehow. I don't know. I don't have a fight-ending prediction, but I definitely lean towards Steven Seiler, who has continued to impress me in the UFC.
Yeah, that was very, very impressive. I think that the backstory for that fight with Cole Miller was that I think Steven Seiler also beat Micah. Didn't he also?
Yeah, he beat his brother. He beat
his...
in the Ultimate Fighter.
Right, and you beat Mike Brown, who also, by the way, is an ATT guy, who trains with Cole Miller. I think that that's going to have some insight. That's an advantage for Mike Brown. He's got 2 guys that are regular training partners now that have fought Steven Seiler. With that said, he hasn't fought. He's very frequently. It's been very sporadic. It's a tough fight, but I got to go with Mike Brown. Simply, he's an ATT guy. I'm gonna go with him based on I'm gonna think that Cole and Micah may be able to give some insight.
Okay, so I got to respect that. I still think Seiler. Sorry, I forgot he was an ATT guy. I almost said AT&T. So oops, but I didn't.
No. You know what? And just so everybody knows, I'm not just gonna pick every guy that trains at ATT just because I train at ATT. I'm gonna call it down the middle the way I see it, but I think that's possible. I know that if I was fighting a guy and 2 of my teammates had fought him, I would think it's an extreme advantage for me to be able to talk with them. Like, hey, what did he do during this? Blah 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 blah. How did he? When you did this, what did he do? There's definitely some footage there.
Yeah. Okay. So we'll see on that one. Have we agreed so far on everything?
Yeah, pretty much everything except for I think that's the only one that's the only fight that I think there's a. Yeah, variance.
That's our one variance. Okay, so next fight, Conor McGregor, Max Holloway. We're gonna vary here too, even though we just had him on the show. We had Max Holloway on the show. I don't know if did I pick Max Holloway earlier. I don't know if I did, but I'm going Conor McGregor. After we've broke this fight down a little bit more and more, and I recall the fights. Sorry, Max, love you, bro. Conor McGregor, the hype is real. I'm just gonna say that.
Hey, it's definitely possible, and these are 2 fights that we're going to be on different sides, and I'm going with the underdog on both of these. And hey, can lightning strike twice? I don't know, but I'm going to go with Holloway based on some UFC experience and the stats I see. That's it.
Yep, and I hope you're right, man. I hope Max wins, but I'm just going, if I have to pick, if I'm going to bet on these fights, I'm just going who I would bet on. Okay, next fight, last fight of the prelims is Brad Pickett versus Michael McDonald, and that's an easy one for me. I think Michael McDonald all day. I'm always impressed with that dude. Brad Pickett, I know he has a really nice resume. He's done a lot of big things. I just think Michael McDonald is better. Better, faster, stronger. Michael McDonald all day.
Brad Pickett is a very, very good fighter. He's beaten guys like Mike Easton and Yves Jabouin, and he's had good fights. Michael McDonald is a extremely tough fighter, and yes, Brad Pickett trains at ATT, but I gotta go with Michael McDonald based on recent performances.
He just fought for the title too.
I think he's gonna have. I think that's gonna be a big experience, man. You're talking about that. I mean, that's a hell of an experience, and both of them have fought Henborough. So, again, if you're picking on based on just fight experience, Brad Pickett is extremely experienced. This is going to be a really, really tough fight. I don't think it's going to be a walk in the park. I think that Michael McDonald can eke out a decision, though, and but it's not going to be a walk in the park. This could be one of those close ones. So we'll go back and kind of talk about this one.
Yeah, we'll talk about it next week. But just for the record, I do think Michael McDonald dominates. Just saying. That's just what I think. Okay.
Okay. No
All
problem.
right. We go to the main card now. We're almost done, guys. 6 fights left. By the way, if you don't agree with any of our predictions, go ahead and tweet us and yell at us all you want. Okay. Joe Lauzon versus Michael Johnson. Easy fight. Joe Lauzon, Black Zillions, we love you. Jen Wank, you're on our team. But I got our buddy Joe.
Joe Lauzon by some crazy inverted heel hook.
Yeah. Okay, next fight. Uriah Hall versus John Howard. John Howard, he wanted this fight. He wanted any fight really bad. He just wanted to fight in front of Boston. He's one of the hometown guys there, right? He was not in the UFC. He got bumped out of the UFC. Now he's back in the UFC because he made so much noise, likely being that he's from Boston, begging on Twitter and social media that he wants to fight one more fight in the UFC. He didn't care if it was a one-fight contract. He just wanted to fight in front of his hometown. He's fighting a beast in Uriah Hall. And Uriah Hall, again, he has been training with the guys that we like to say are across the street from me at Team Rain. And he has closed up some of those holes. Doesn't really matter, though, because he doesn't need to close those holes for this fight against John Howard. They're both going to stand and bang. That's going to play right into Uriah Hall's hands, and he's going to whoop this dude's butt. I'm thinking like knockout. If it gets past the midpoint of the second round, I'm going to be shocked.
Wow, and very, very interesting prediction right there.
Yeah,
extremely interesting prediction. I'm actually picking John Howard to win, so that's very interesting. John Howard, this is stylistically, I think it's a good fight for him. I think that the only problem he's going to have is getting inside. He's very short for a 185-pound fighter. I think that could be, you're talking about 5 foot, 5'7" or something along those lines, So again, I don't. It's going to be a good fight. It's one of those. It's one of the fights on here that could be fight of the night. But if I break it down and I look at it for what it is, John Howard doesn't go away easily. I mean, he stood there and banged with Thiago Alves the entire fight. Okay, now that guy hits harder than almost anybody in those two weight classes. He's a beast. I think it's going to be a tough fight for Uriah. John Howard's got 3 times as much experience. I'm picking the third upset from the Boston native. I think John Howard is going to win a 3-round, really hard, gritty decision.
Yeah, he's been real active since his UFC stint, right? John Howard. I mean, looks like he's been pretty active.
Yes, he has been. Yeah, he's actually he's got two fight win streak. He did drop one, but I mean he's won. I don't think 6 of his last 7 or something like that, and a lot of them have come by knockout. Most of them have come by knockout. So we'll see, man. Again, the reach I think could be a problem. Uriah throws some good kicks, so the reach could be a problem. But John Howard's a good Muay Thai fighter. I think he's going to kind of expect this, and
He is. That's where his strength is his striking, right? I mean, he's a Muay Thai guy.
He's a Muay Thai fighter, yeah. So it's going to be.
What I find interesting is when he was in the UFC in his last stint, he was at welterweight.
Yes, and again, he's 5'7", 220 pounds.
Yep.
He's huge. He is a big guy, and it is not easy for him to make 170. And I imagine he's probably put on a good bit of muscle since his UFC stint, because I think his UFC fights were in 2011 or something like that. Was when he was fighting in the UFC. So he's more than 2 years removed. 2 years is a lot of skills to develop, man.
True. I just think that, and we'll get off this fight after I say this, I guess, or you can rebut me. I think that some guys, when they're stand-up fighters, right, which these both guys are, some of them look like they just flow. And I think Uriah Hall's one of those guys. He's kind of like Anderson Silva. He just flows. You know what I mean? Like water or whatever you want to say. Like, not to sound like totally corny, but Uriah Hall has that kind of swag to him when he's standing up. I mean, we saw it on The Ultimate Fighter, man. He put everybody away. I just think that's going to happen again. Maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, he did. And again, I can only say, and we're not gonna. We'll move on to the next fight, but I can only play by stats, and I just look at Uriah Hall, and he's got 10 professional fights or something like that, and I look at John Howard, who's got like 28, and he's 20-8 with previous UFC experience against guys like Thiago Alves, Matt Brown, and fucking these all sorts of like crazy guys who are top of the weight class, and it's everybody has their time, but I think that that's I got to give John Howard his credit when you just breaking the fight down.
Okay. Let's move on. Matt Brown versus Mike Pyle. It's an interesting fight for sure. Matt Brown is on like a major tear, right? On top of that, he's from my girl's hometown of Columbus, Ohio. She's a huge Matt Brown fan. So if I go against Matt Brown, she's probably gonna punish me a little bit here tonight. Irregardless of that, I would pick Matt Brown over Mike Pyle. Sorry, Mike. Mike's always a good friend on our show. He gives us great, amazing insight and interviews. And Mike is a guy you can't ever really bet against. I think we've covered his history in the sport. He's been fighting since the NHB days, fought guys like Rampage Jackson. Matt Brown's not going to be able to show him anything that he hasn't already seen before, but Matt is a beast, and considering his recent streak of success, he's going to do what he does, and he's going to deliver again, and he's going to take out Mike Pyle.
To give the advantage in this fight, for me, I have to. I'm going Mike Pyle, and I'm going to explain to you why. If you look at, I think the body of work for Mike Pyle has been a little bit better when I look at the guys that he's beaten. I look at the resume, and I'm like, Jordan Mean, he's a tough fighter. Mike Swick, he's a tough fighter, good guy, but very spotty and very, he's not even operating remotely close to good fight shape. Let's be real here. And then you're talking about, Wonder Boy Thompson and Chris Cope, and again, I don't want to take a lot away because these are all tough fighters and they're great, but
no, they're tough fighters, but they're not great. That's what I'll say. You're right.
They're tough fighters. They're good fighters, but are they better than like a Josh Neer who's battle tested, a Rick Story who's battle tested, who's kind of like fought all these top guys? I think that resume is a little bit better. I also stylistically, I look at the fight and I see a guy like Matt Brown, and his style is to come at you and he wants to make the fight dirty. Well, you're going to try to make it a dirty fight against a guy like Mike Pyle, who's extremely technical, and is a smart fighter, a very intelligent fighter. And then if you want to break it down even further, Matt Brown, I don't know, he's got 11 losses, and probably 9 or 10 of them of those losses are by submission, against a guy like Mike Pyle, who has got 25 wins and 16 or 17 are by submission.
Yep.
He's got 6 submission skills. The guy's black belt level on the ground. I mean, we were asking how his jiu-jitsu was going to compare to Gunnar Nelson. Okay. I'm going Mike Pyle based on the style matchup. I think that Matt Brown's dreams are going to come crashing to reality.
I'm excited about that fight, no matter what happens.
Sorry, Amber.
I'll tell you said so. Okay, let's move on. Faber versus Alcantara. Again, I'm going with the California kid. He's one of the homies. We support Team Alpha Male to the fullest, and I think that Faber's going to do what he does, man. He's going to beat everybody that they put in front of him, except for the champ.
Yeah, I got to go Uriah. I mean, just look at the resumes, man. And Yuri Alcantara is a great fighter. I mean, he is an absolutely phenomenal fighter. And believe me when I tell you, he's going to bring it. He's going to bring it. Like all the Brazilians bring it. He's going to bring it. But Uriah, he's a black belt killer. I don't know how many times I said it. You put a black belt in there, he's going to beat him. He loves destroying these guys. I'm going Faber simply based on experience. I think that he's going to be back into some sort of title fight before it's all said and done. And I'm going Uriah.
All right, we agree again. It's been a while. All right, next fight. We've already talked about this in detail. Overeem versus Brown. We both picked Brown. You're still holding that, right?
Yeah, I'm going Brown also.
Okay, and then main event, Sonnen versus Rua. You said you're picking Sonnen earlier in the broadcast before we even had a guest on, I think. I'm picking Shogun because, dude, it's Shogun.
I said I was picking... Actually, I didn't say who I was picking at all. What I said was I was thinking... This whole time I was thinking Shogun, and then that Joe Lauzon came on the line and kind of made an interesting point that set in with me a little bit, where when you look at Chael, it's like, he's had some losses, but you're looking at the losses. The only losses he's had in the last 4 years have been at John Jones and Anderson Silva. The only losses he's had have been to John Jones and Anderson Silva. Let's look at the style matchup. I mean, Shogun is a legit light heavyweight, but he didn't look that good. He didn't look that good against, would you say that Shogun looked better against John Jones than Chael did?
Yes.
You would?
Yes.
What were Shogun's shining moments of that fight? I'm just curious.
He just lasted longer.
So he just lasted longer. So the fact that he was able to get punished for a little bit longer made the fight better.
Dude, that makes a difference. If you're looking at it on paper, you're gonna go, wow, Sonnen made it. However many, I can count it on my hand how many minutes he made it. Shogun, I need 2 hands. You know what I mean? So it's just on paper, it looks better.
Oh, okay, I'll give you that. This is a tough fight to call for me, man, because it's one of these fights that Chael... Is this a 5-round main event? Do you even know?
I have no idea, honestly. It should be, right?
Aren't main events supposed to be 5, or is this a 3-rounder?
Well, they say that, but it's kind of wishy-washy. Adam, what is it, Adam? Let's get our fact checker on here.
Let us know if it's a 3-rounder or a 5-rounder. That could make a difference. In a 5-rounder, I'm going Shogun. And the reason I will, I'm going to go Shogun in the fight. He's just a legit 205er. I think it's going to be hard for Chael to take him down repeatedly. Knees could be introduced to Chael's head. It's a tough fight, man. Gun to my head, I'm picking Shogun.
Yeah. Now, I will say this. Will Chael be able to get him to the ground and take him down? Absolutely. Right? Absolutely. Sonnen will likely be able to take this dude down almost at will. Okay? I don't think that we can dispute that. But the thing that makes the difference here is what can he do to Shogun once he gets it there? And my answer to that is not much. I think that Shogun's very explosive. And I think that history shows that when he gets taken down, he's very active, and he either, he threatens with submission after submission, and he ends up getting back up, and then that's back into his world. So, I mean, there's a chance, dude. There is a chance that Chael can wear on this dude and kind of do what he does and become victorious. But I mean, if we're playing odds here, I know the odds makers are going for Chael Sonnen in this fight. Joe Lauzon is going for Chael Sonnen in this fight. The odds that I see it going Shogun's way. So I guess we'll see. We got 4 more days. And your mic's on mute again, but that's okay.
Again, you're talking about like the submission skills and things like that, and ability to finish. Like, I don't know if the ability to finish is going to be there for like every type of submission, but there's certain things that Shogun is very good at, and leg locks and attacking arm bars and things like that. He does have some good skills in that department. We'll have to see, man. I'd like to think that that's a hole that Chael kind of looked at already after the amount of criticism that he got, and working with Vinny and things like that repeatedly, that he might have been able to shore up some of those holes. Again, we talked about it before, but training at Mark Munoz's camp is definitely going to be a change. He's in a completely he's out of state. He had to rent some apartment, and he's living over there and locally. It's a completely different area. That does change things. It's going to affect things a little bit differently. So we'll have to see.
I think it will definitely improve him, man. Team Rain is a legit team. You know what I mean? Those guys really do big things. They got a really good camp. A literal who's who go in and out of that gym. Lyoto Machida, Fabricio Verdum, Junior Dos Santos, King Mo. All those guys. I mean, I could go on and on and on of how many heads I've seen over at Mark's gym. You know what I mean? And it's amazing. The guy cultivates talent over there, and maybe that's the difference. I mean, I would think for sure that, and nothing against Chael's previous camp where he's held camp. He's been with Matt Lindland, right, at Team Quest, or the formerly known as Team Quest, whatever. There's legal disputes over names out there, but Team Rain, definitely an up in camp for Mr. Sonnen, and might be interesting to see. He might be revived over there.
I've been told it is a 5-round main event. That makes a difference. I have to go with Shogun in a 5-round main event. I don't see Chael being able to take him down for all 5 rounds. If Chael can't finish him, which I don't see that happening either. I got to go Shogun in a 5-round main event. That's a lot of takedowns to have to secure.
Thank you, Adam, for the info. Adam's the man, right? Isn't Adam the man?
Definitely. He got the facts quickly. Good job, Adam.
This guy doesn't get enough props, but he's the man. Adam, you're the shit, dude. Thank you very much, buddy. Tweet that out. Yeah, tweet that out.
So yeah, there's the card right there, broken down. We'll see how it all pans out, man. We have some differences there, but it looks like I'm going with a lot of the underdogs, and you're holding steady with some of the favorites.
Yeah, we have like 3 or 4 variations.
Yeah, mostly on just the ones that were like obvious underdogs, and But yeah, I guess I'm just kind of going with the some hopefuls there.
Okay, let's shout out to Vitamin Shop. Thank you guys for your support. Force Factor, it's a pleasure. I would love to try the new Force Factor 2. Just throwing that out there. I haven't tried it yet. I'd definitely like to. MMA Warehouse, awesome. Athletic Greens, the shit. I'm still drinking my greens. Everything's good. Everything's lovely. I also want to say again, thank you to Vapor Labs in Irvine. I was over there yesterday, and they always take great care of me, like supreme care of me. I don't think it has to do with that I shot them out on the radio show, though. Maybe it is. Maybe that's why they take such good care of me. But they do. They take great care of me. That's all I got. George?
MMA Warehouse?
MMA Warehouse, yep. They have awesome shirts. Dude, let's what do you think of that new Prebeck thing? Speaking of MMA Warehouse, have you seen the new Prebeck or Prebeck? I don't know how you pronounce the guy, the cartoonist. Ariel Helwani Knows shirt that he has cartooned on John Jones?
Let me tell you something. I watched it earlier today and was dying of laughter. It was so funny.
It's
It
hilarious.
was his Anderson Silva, like it's not at this point. It's not even just the voices that are making it funny. It's the actual story that he's like they're trapped in an elevator of like a hotel, and then he has Nick Diaz talking about stay on your side of the hotel.
Dude, I mean, it's all very relevant to the real MMA world. Like, it's actually, he's not some phony. You know what I mean? He's very up to date with his MMA culture. You know, as I like to call it, and yeah, he knows all those little intricate nuances of what's going on in the MMA world. You know what I mean? And yeah, it makes it if you're a fan of the sport that just doesn't tune in on fight night, but you actually follow the sport. You know what I mean? And all the gossip and everything like that goes in. Again, the MMA culture. Yeah, he's a freaking genius. And the reason why I brought that up is because that T-shirt that John Jones is wearing in the cartoon, and anybody listening, if you haven't seen that T-shirt, you can go on bjpen.com right now. We have the video on the homepage. Anderson Silva, Elevator, Steven Seagal, John Jones. Well, I don't know what it's titled, but it's something along those lines. They're all featured in it. John Jones is wearing the shirt where it's the outline of Ariel Helwani's nose meant to be in the shape of a Nike swoosh, and it says Helwani Nose. But it doesn't say nose like Knows. It says nose, Nose. And that's an actual real shirt, George. And I don't know if you know that or not, but it's actually sold on our sponsor site, MMAwarehouse.com. That shirt, Helwani Knows, and actually the proceeds of the buys go to charity. So it's kind of a cool backstory to that whole thing. So anybody out there, you can not only support our sponsors, you can get a funny shirt, and you can support charity, all in the same process. And if you really want to stand out like a real MMA fan, then you can't go wrong with that. The Helwani Nose shirt is 100% legit.
Yeah, I did see that. It's actually pretty hilarious. If you haven't, the cartoon itself, the entire storyline of the cartoon is just absolutely hilarious. I mean, if he started making episodes like every few days, I would be hooked on watching. But I imagine that it's pretty difficult to make the episodes, do the animations, and you have to actually like think of the story, come out with the content. It's probably a pretty like a pretty heavy process.
Yeah, honestly, if they were to put that out on Fox Sports 1, like a whole UFC cartoon, or even on Fuel TV, one of these UFC friendly channels, dude, I'm there, I'm DVRing it, I'm TiVoing it, whatever you got at home, I would totally watch that every single week. It's hilarious. I think it actually, if the sport keeps growing, it may get there, because the dude's really talented, those voices are funny, everything's great, and it's current, and it's just very entertaining. What do you think about this, George? We actually have a few more minutes, so we'll keep it going, because I have stuff I want to talk about still. Mayhem Miller.
I don't know, man. I don't even know what to say about that.
That's your boy, dude. That's your boy. You spent Easter with him. He spent Easter in your house, homie. You know what I mean? Like, he was with your family, cutting ham and turkeys and eating Easter, spending the holidays, walking your dog and everything like that outside of Hooters on Pleasant Hill and the ATL. You know what I mean? I know all about you and Mayhem. You guys are tight, bro. You know? What's going on?
Yeah, that's it. I don't know. It's to be expected, I guess. It's what I tell people all the time, is that it's not an act. It's like legit. And yeah, it's you know, when I first met him, I thought it might be an act, but then
yeah, no, it's not.
I slowly realized that it's actually
it's legit. It's not an act.
It's not an act. It's legit. Like the way he's acting in those interviews, and
that's him.
That's him. Like when you're sitting there in the car with him, and you're on the highway, and there's dead silence.
No, there's not dead silence.
There's not dead. Yeah, that's what he's doing. That's what the same type of dialogue that you get from him in interviews is literally how he is, and so he's kind of like up and down, all over the place. So I guess depending on the situation and where you catch him, like you can have occurrences like this. I don't know. I don't know what he does with his day. I don't know what he's got planned. I mean, I assume he wants to fight again. He's not like rich by any means, so I don't know what. I don't know. I'm sure he's wanting to make a little bit more money and things like that. I just don't know what he's got planned. But this is definitely not a step in the right direction if you're trying to get your career back.
Yeah, and what we're talking about, for anybody who may not know, you can go on bjpen.com and check it out, but Mayhem Miller was arrested again, and this time for domestic violence. Actually, he lives in my neighborhood, dude. You know what I mean? Like, we're just like right around the corner from each other. And I don't know the whole story. I don't attempt to know the whole story. I do not talk to Mayhem Miller, but he and I do run in very similar circles, and it's a very small circle. You know what I mean? And I haven't asked anybody about it, but yeah, he apparently there was a female involved, and the police report read that she had bruising on her arms, bruising on her legs, a laceration above her eye and on her cheek that were bleeding, and they arrested him for it. He made bond on Monday night. He posted bail, and he's a free man. What I find really interesting is his response. And it was this real cryptic. He spoke in tongue. He kind of cited some biblical verses in his apology today, and I mean, you gotta wonder, like. I know Mayhem. You know Mayhem. I know him as a person, and like you said, what you see is what you get. He doesn't put on a persona for the cameras that's fake. That's really how he is. He's kind of quite the eccentric, kind of like an Andy Kaufman personality is what I feel like. You know what I mean? Like that dude Andy Kaufman, who was just very out there and kind of controversial, and Mayhem's really steadily more and more going into that direction. I hope the best for him.
He's definitely a different type of guy, and I think a lot of the situation. I'll give you a good example, and when I was hanging out with him, I remember it was like a Sunday morning, and he called me. He sent me a text, and he says, "Yeah, hey, come meet me over here. I'm at this." He was at a Hooters in Gwinnett. Actually, that's where it was.
Pleasant Hill.
He goes, "Go meet me. Come meet me over here." He had walked from his hotel over to this Hooters, and he was just sitting there watching basketball and eating food or whatever. So I get there, and there's a guy sitting at the table with him. Now, keeping in mind that Mayhem does not have a car, and he was staying at a hotel. Okay, but yes, he is on MTV, and he is a little bit of a famous fighter. So I assume that maybe this is just some fan. No, it wasn't just some fan. It was just some guy that just randomly just sat down, and Mayhem was like, "Well, cool, I'll hang out with this guy today." Well, I didn't realize that, and lo and behold, two more people randomly. I thought that these are people that he knew. I didn't realize they were completely random until like an hour and a half later, when he walked out of the room, and I'm talking to these people, and they're like, "Yeah, I just met him like an hour ago."
Yeah.
And I'm like, these people are like in his hotel room, hanging out, like doing whatever, and I'm like, hey, this is like, that's just a guy that is just forthcoming to anybody and everybody around him. In fact, I remember him telling me when I dropped him at the airport, he's like, what I would think would be really cool is if you continued to be friends with all of those people. He's like, so that when I come back, he's like, it would just be like friends reuniting. And that's the mentality that this guy has. So it's like it's a really interesting way and perspective, I guess, to walk through life every day like that. But he's generally like really open to like a lot of people.
Right, he is. So yeah, domestic violence, Mayhem Miller, definitely an interesting dude. Did you read his apology, George?
I did, yeah. It's just
it's weird.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what to make of it exactly.
People listening, you can check it out on bjpen.com. Mayhem Miller's apology. It's very interesting. I also have some information. I have a little bit of information on him. Now, I can't really credit this to the domestic violence issue. That's a whole issue in all of its own. You know what I mean? But the police were called to his house because there were complaints or something like that. I don't want to misquote it, but here what the police report said was when they arrived on the scene, and this wasn't the date of the incident with domestic violence. This was the next day. They arrived on the scene at Mayhem's house, and they were greeted with him outside yelling at his neighbors. Okay, you read that part?
I read that much, yeah.
Okay. Now the information I have, which I don't know if a lot of people know, and he might be totally blowing this, by the way, right now. Okay, is that he does currently have a reality TV show in production. All right. I don't know if we've talked about this on the air or not. Nobody in MMA media has mentioned it. You know what I mean? It's something that hasn't made news, but he got an offer around the same time that Rampage Jackson got an offer. I'm not saying it's with Bellator or Spike. I don't really have any of those details. But he does have a reality TV show in production. And I wonder, and this is just speculation, but if his over-the-top personality is completely emphasized trying to make his new show a hit, and in doing so, that some of what we're seeing now in the media is the result of that, meaning not the domestic violence part, okay? Because, again, you don't... If it's true, and this is just alleged, right? But if it's true, if you're hitting on a woman or whatever the fuck happened, you don't do that for TV. But the fact that the police got called for him yelling at his neighbors, that's kind of something I can see that maybe happened while film's rolling. You know what I mean? And mayhem's being mayhem and causing mayhem and you know what I mean and all that stuff. I don't really know, but I mean, again, with all this coming out, if he still has a reality show, you know, I'd be surprised unless they were involved in it, involved in all this ruckus in some form, you know. Something to consider, though. I'm kind of holding out hope that maybe that was partially to blame, is that he was showing out for cameras, you know what I mean, and maybe things got out of hand.
Yeah, that's almost a tough sell with Mayhem just because of the history. You know, he's kind of like
yeah.
He's had incidents like this all over the place, and he's been arrested multiple times, and there's always something.
I mean,
ridiculous.
who hasn't been arrested though? Let's get real. No, I'm just kidding.
But he's had these like incidents both in and out of the cage where like things go crazy and go. So it's kind of hard to discern like and say like, oh well, you know, maybe this is just because of this. When it's like, well, man, this guy has done stuff like this, stunts like this, like his entire career. So it's kind of like the boy who cried wolf too many times. You know, you can't be, you know, you can't be doing it too many times. Apparently, you know, people are going to catch on to you after a while. You know.
True.
So
true. I'm not trying to make excuses for him again because I don't know, but I'm saying I hope that there's a reasonable explanation because you know, despite his interesting persona that he's been carrying with him lately, I'm a fan of Mayhem. You know what I mean? And while I can't condone domestic violence, I'm not that type of dude. You know, I'm sure most people aren't, and I'm not making excuses for him. You know, I just hope that there's more to the story that can kind of be acceptable to what's really going on. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, for sure. You know, well, I mean, we're going to see because obviously some facts are still going to come out. He's not going to talk about all the things yet. I'm sure he's been advised by his attorneys to not talk about any of these things and to kind of let things be organic. But obviously he feels at fault for something because that apology definitely is oh shit, I just messed up really bad apology.
I mean, was it? Did you think that was an oh shit apology?
Yeah, it's definitely it's something that a lawyer would absolutely advise you not to do. It's an admittance of guilt. So it sounds like he's already conceding that he's done something wrong, and that he's going to have to that there's going to be some restitution or you know, some sort of penalty for it. So we'll see what happens. But the facts are a little bit cloudy right now of everything, and we're not going to know his side because I'm certain that legally he has been advised to not speak about any of it.
Yep. All right, man. I think we're done here.
Well, yeah. Anyway, man, I'm actually really excited for the show, and everybody who's listening should be really excited for the show this weekend because it is it's a hell of a card, and not a lot of cards stick out in my head these days. With the amount of events we have to see, whether they're for UFC, Bellator, World Series, or whoever the promotion is, not a lot sticks out. And when something does stick out, you know, it's usually something pretty special. And this one definitely looks like a good card. And I believe your mic was muted now.
Dang.
Look at that.
Busted me
See,
out.
turnabout is fair play.
Okay, you busted me out. Yeah, so again, that card is this Saturday on Fox Sports 1. That's what I was saying. Whatever, dude. Whatever, George. Let's just go. All right, people.
Steam.
Yeah, we're losing steam. Have a good night, everybody. We'll be back Wednesday.